I'm not gonna leave you without actually turning the car on so you can hear it, otherwise you guys will kill me. So here it is with the custom exhaust. It's gonna be on. It's in your mind, do you get the V10 or do you get the V8? In this video, I'm gonna help you choose which engine option is the best choice for you. So behind me here, I have my 2008 Audi R8. This is with the famous 4.2 liter V8 engine from Audi. This was a highly sought after engine. It was also in the Audi RS4. Then 2 years later, Audi came out with the V10 version from the Lamborghini. Came in the 5.2 liter V10 with 518 horsepower on the manual transmission, the 6-speed gated manual transmission, which this car is as well. So again, 420 horsepower V8, 320 foot-pounds of torque versus the 512 horsepower motor with equivalent torque. So one of the first things I thought about when I was looking and deciding between the V8 and the V10, for me, there was a budget in mind. So number one, the V10 was of course more expensive than the V8. For every other manufacturer, that's probably gonna be the case. The amount of expense that's the extra, it may be different. In this case, it was $20,000. And to me, that was a lot of money. So if you're budget constrained, number one, this isn't even a discussion. You should be going with the V10. The V10 engine is awesome, has that extra power. It really brings that supercar feel to this car and to any car. If you had the choice between the V10 and the V8, 2 cylinders more, go with the 2 cylinders. If you got that money, spend it on those 2 cylinders. But if you're a budget conscious consumer like I was, you have to go ahead, look at the analysis, what trade-offs are going with the V8 to the V10. So number one, V10, more power, awesome, still a reliable engine, in this case for the Audi case, but $20,000 more expensive. It is gonna be a little bit more consuming of the fuel. That's the other piece. When I go look at the V8, yes, about 100 less horsepower, okay, but it's $20,000 cheaper. Arguably, it's more reliable. This engine, again, the 4.2 liter from the Audi RS4, which it was first introduced into, then it came into the first model year of the Audi R8. So thinking about the price, thinking about performance, thinking about fuel economy, maybe you get a little bit better fuel economy, but honestly, on a V8 anyway, that requires premium fuel economy, you're gonna be paying for it, especially with the fuel prices today. Now, realistically, in driving, do I think the V8 is good enough to the V10? I personally think it is. You have to consider the V8 up to an 8,200 RPM redline. So you have a high revving, naturally aspirated V8 that just loves to rev, number one. Number two, personally, I prefer the sound of the V8. V8 maybe is a little bit more muscle car-esque with the sound, where the V10 is a little bit more supercar F1-esque, but I went ahead, I put a custom exhaust on this car. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, make sure you like this video, and you can go watch those videos. I put the full custom exhaust on this car. It really sounds awesome now, and I'll obviously leave you a tease with how that sounds like. But to me, for what I do every day, which is I'm an enthusiast, I'm gonna go ahead, take it on some twisty roads. I'm actually out here on some twisties right now. You're gonna have some fun. You wanna have something that's decently reliable, but it's part of the experience. That's what I'm buying this car for. I'm not buying this car to set lap times at the Nürburgring or to go the fastest on my pathetic quarter mile, which was the 13.3 second, which the magazines say this can go 12.9. I could get nowhere close to that. And I got lucky with a 13.3. I was running even worse times than that. So you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what is the purpose of this? Yes, if you have, unlimited supplies of money, go with the V10, right? You can get a supercar with a supercar engine, where maybe this isn't necessarily a supercar engine. This is a great high performance sports car engine in what I believe is the skeleton of a supercar. You have to make those decisions and trade-offs. I personally think for 99% of people that are driving a car where you're making a decision between a V8 or V10, you're most likely gonna have the same amount of fun with either engine. Now it's more a matter of, do you want that power, or is this more of a measuring contest with you and your boys of what you wanna do? And both engines on this Audi R8 actually is beautifully displayed in this glass mid-engine compartment engine bay. Absolutely love the look. Of course, the V10 looks a little bit more beefier. It's got a little bit more, kuncha in there, but the V8 is more than enough. It's super, super smooth, very powerful on the street. Of course, it doesn't have that big grunt that the V10 does, but what I love about this car, and what I love about this V8 specifically, is that it loves to rev. And that's part of the fun, right? You want to rev it up, just like the Honda S2000s. Yes, it doesn't have as much torque or horsepower, but what people love about that car is the fact that it has a 9,000 RPM redline, and it's super fun to drive and just rev up. So when you think about all these things, the V8 is not a bad choice. And do I regret if when people ask me, Canadian rider, do you regret getting the V8? Should you have gone the V10? And the answer is, no, I don't regret it. I'm not a multi-millionaire. I can't just go ahead and blow. I had a budget to stick to. And in that budget, it said the V8. And I can tell you, I've personally driven the V10 Audi R8. Yes, it's got more balls, but is this as fun as the V10? I believe it is. I really do believe it is. It's also a little bit more reliable, a little bit cheaper on gas, and it's more of a pedestrian engine in this case. Of course, at the end of the day, if you have the money, go with the V10. That's my analysis on the V8 or the V10. I think, listen, at the end of the day, both are going to be phenomenally fun. You're going to have an exciting time, whether it's an Audi or any other car that you're looking for and deciding which engine should I be getting. The V10 is just more that lower end grunt. It's going to give you obviously that more horsepower, but when you're deciding which engine you should go with, look at the characteristics of how you're going to be driving it and how much fun you're going to get out of it. So high engine RPM, high red line, do you need to go ahead and ring it out? Is that part of the enjoyment? Do you have the option to also maybe get the V8 in the stick or the V10's in the automatic? I'd be picking the V8 with the stick any day of the week versus the automatic V10. It's all personal preference, but that's my opinion. I've fallen in love with this car. A big part of the reason why is this engine, phenomenally reliable engine. I've driven this car for about 4 years now. I've had no major issues with it at all. Typical maintenance stuff that you can expect. Again, if you want to learn more, make sure you subscribe. Check out my other videos on this playlist on this 2008 Audi R8. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comment box down below. I've never owned a V10. I've driven in a lot. I've driven in a lot of V8s and I've owned a lot of V8s, and I can tell you, there's nothing like a good sounding V8. It's just very unique that not even the V10s can reproduce. I'll catch you guys in the next video.